say goodbye to two extraordinary Brummies, so I'm going to move on. Well, we'll have a round of applause for Jean. She deserves it, absolutely. It's hard to know what to say about this next character. But character is a good place to start. Dave has been an extraordinary character all throughout his time here. He just gave me a little extra nugget of gold just before the ceremony when he was talking with Dave, and I just eavesdropped and heard a little bit of conversation that the first head teacher to employ Dave Allen here had noted the twinkle in his eye. I think we'd all agree that there's always been a twinkle in Mr. Allen's eye, and I think your first and your last head teacher have both noticed it, and been glad of it, I think, as have so many students throughout the time. Now, the reason Dave actually started here before our other Dave, but I'm talking about him first because he took some time out, the cheeky beggar. Unbelievable that he actually went and worked for the advisory service for 2.5 years, and thus Mr. Wood just beats him by a small margin for the long service directly to the school. Although I think it was just a secondment, Dave, wasn't it? So, it's still to be argued out properly between the two of you, I think, really. And I won't do it Harry Hill style. We'll go for something altogether more civilised. Dave was originally appointed as an art teacher to the Highlands School, the predecessor school to this one. He has been head of art, he's been head of technology, head of photography, he's been the creative director of the school, he's been responsible for letterheadings and mastheads and prospectuses and all sorts of things, before latterly just scaling back a little bit, but again he did that with absolute charm, with absolute style, came and had a conversation, was very, very flexible, 0.4, 0.6, whatever we needed. And that's been his attitude throughout his time at school. It's been whatever the school's needed, whatever his students have needed, he's been there to deliver that. One job he didn't have, he's done all sorts of things. TVEI, I think, was one of the big initiatives that Dave contributed a lot to. He was, considered the ICT expert and guru for the whole of Calderdale at one time. I came in here today to see his mastery of the setup. He was, just sorting it all out for us to use, etc. But Dave has always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial flair as well, and I can't believe I missed the trick by sort of asking him to lead up on sort of the enterprise side of careers, maybe. Because if anyone knows how to make an extra buck or two in the school, it's always been Mr. Allen. He's always been a great negotiator, always been able to come into my office and just, Andrew, I've got this idea, what do you think about this? What do you think you're going to pay me for doing that? And that's absolutely fine. Nobody wants to be exploited or taken advantage of. I've really enjoyed those conversations, and Dave has always done it with a cheeky smile on his face, and dare I say it, a little twinkle in his eye, and it's always been very good-natured. But it's also produced some incredibly high-quality stuff. So if you think about the school prospectuses over the last few years, until very latterly when Nicola's taken it over and it's gone out of house again, Dave has done some amazing publications, and I think, has presented the school in its letterheadings and mastheadings and all sorts of ways in a really, really creative and professional sort of way. And he's also always had some interests outside of school. We know that he's headed up photography in school, but photography is a big part of his life outside of school as well. And I think, there are exhibitions going on, probably as we speak, that I don't know about, but there's certainly been some really big exhibitions, and down in the hometown city of Birmingham as well, that Dave has organised. So, just an incredible competition. An incredible contribution to the school. And there were just a few things I noticed when I trawled through his file, just looking for one or two things. And I bet none of us realised that Dave once actually designed and painted the exterior of a bus for Birmingham Social Services Department. and on the theme of nursery rhymes. So maybe the minibus, maybe Dave, you know, sort of, you know, if you've got a spare hour or two next year, maybe we could go for some kind of theme on that. And also, he has given a one-man exhibition, or he created a one-man exhibition, and I think you'll probably all want to go to it. I may even create a bit of a stampede for the exit here as you try to get there. But a one-man exhibition on the theme of the importance of Snow Hill Station as part of the Great Western Railway. I can't believe there's no takers. I can't believe there's no movement towards the door. Dave, you know, they don't really want to hear any more from me about you. They want to hear from the man himself, I'm absolutely sure. So hands together, please, for Mr. Allen.
Just checking the tech. Oh, okay, that's it. I thought I'd start with some objectives in the normal way. So if I can run through my objectives for this with you, my first objective, don't piss people off. Obviously we want to be outside having a barbecue, we want to be in the pub. So I won't drag on. I will speak for 7 minutes and 32 seconds. That's 1/2 of the time I've been here. I will try to provide humour, but I'm not a jokesmith as such, so it will be largely self-embarrassment. I can rely on that one, I think. I should include stretch and challenge, I think, one last time. So I will. I'll include some stereotyping and gross generalisation. And I'll start with history. Because I know historians analyse sources. And I'd like to have a look at 3 sources that go back to to the time I started in this place, which was the autumn term of 1981. I'd taken over from Bill Mackenzie, a lovely man who had room AD2, art room 2, and he'd cleared out his desk entirely except for a single thing. And this is my first historical source, because he'd left me this. This is leather, and it's for strapping boys with. Now, I'd moved up from Birmingham, and I had several culture shocks when I arrived. I thought, geez, I'm meant to strap boys with this. I'd actually never heard of this. In fact, there were many culture shocks for me at first. I'd been in India for 6 weeks before I moved here. I only got off the plane a couple of days before it, and it's the genuine truth that India caused me less of a culture shock than moving to Halifax. So my first source, I think I ought to give, don't you think I ought to give it as a gift to someone? My second historical source, Andrew's mentioned that I've been involved with computers, even though my subjects typically were art history, graphic design, product design, photography, all those types of subjects. In fact, they've all been under the umbrella of information technology and computers. And I give this as a historical source because in about 1983, I walked into the staff room and there was a small crowd of, well, men, it was men, sitting around Bill Bardlang, a genius mathematician, I'm told, I wouldn't know, and he'd done computer graphics. Now, my ears pricked up at this. Computer graphics, now we're talking, that's going to be interesting for me. And I went and joined this little throng and saw on the monochrome green screen of the BBC model, whatever it was, B I think, that Bill had written this program. And he then ran that programme. And over the course of about a minute, it drew this. Okay, computer graphics can wait, was genuinely what I thought. In fact, the world changed within the next year. I won't bother you with the history of computers, but the mouse came out and it changed everything. Another historical source. Now, one does try to embarrass oneself, so here goes. I had a photography club. They had an exhibition in the Peace Hall Art Gallery, as was, and by good fortune, a picture researcher for Yorkshire Television saw the exhibition, got in touch and said, can we feature you on a photography programme that we want called the Calendar Picture Show? And they did. He came up and filmed 4 of the girls that were in the photography club. And I present this, it's only 2 minutes long. I've cut it all down, I've edited the video down. Things for you to note: the design of the presenter's spectacles will give you a key into the time. What the girls are wearing, there was one good haircut in particular, from 1980s. And the first girl, bless her, Deborah Crowther, who gives some outstanding logic and reasoning at the beginning of the video. And other than that, just me to laugh at about the age of 28.
First, let's go back to school, the Highlands School in Halifax to be exact, and meet 4 fourth-year girls who took up photography only quite recently. Their teacher, Dave Allen, started the school's camera club a few years ago, and Karina, Deborah, Rachel and Helen are just a few of the pupils who queue up to use the darkroom at lunchtime and after school is over. The 4 girls started off taking more traditional portraits of each other, but recently they got the idea of using the face as a canvas on which to paint other pictures using the skills they already had with makeup. And I think you'll agree that the results they achieve are really quite, what's the word, startling, I think.
I don't know what made me think of the jigsaw, but it's probably one of those scenes that you see on a jigsaw, and it just made me think of the jigsaw sort out like that and just put it into a face.
We don't normally do such intricate designs, and they don't take us long, but it took 2 hours today to put that on.
I suppose it's something but the ideas for the photographs are rarely mine. They start with the girls, or in some cases the lads' ideas. I might prompt them towards developing the idea, but I rarely have the first idea.
Is that shadow on the side of it?
Yeah, it is. I know.
Okay, I'll bring it round.
Photography is a very expensive pastime, and to run it as a club, which has to be self-supporting, we can't go in for floodlights or whatever. We have to just use what lights we've got. In this case, the projector lamps. We have used the bulbs out of old enlargers, whatever we can get. I mean, you can get good results with very cheap equipment.
You can't get closer than that. Unless you change the names, you can make the old big.
Well, the reason I wanted to them publicly exhibited was because I was stunned. I know what I could produce at their age, and it was nothing like this. And for their age in particular, I think that's where the credit must come. For a 19 or a 20-year-old studying art at college, then it would be nothing special, perhaps. But for that reason, I want other people to see them. They're worthy of being seen.
Well, definitely a few budding photographic stars there.
And so, fast forward to this school year, and an early December I left, and of course, leaving in early December involves doing this. It involves walking across a rainy car park, pouring down a rain, got in my car, drove home, and thought, oh, right, that's the 39 years then. A strange feeling. Not sad, I wanted to go. Not happy either, just a slightly empty. And I walked in and Karen said, "You want a cup of tea then?" So there was a sort of funny feeling, a funny hollow feeling. And something temporarily came to my rescue. I'm not a massive fan of social media. I can see both sides of it. But FaceAche came to the rescue because I put this on Facebook and just a little comment, pretty much what I just said to you. And later that night, went back to Facebook and had a look, and this happened. So, temporarily, I felt all right about that. I want to say some thanks. Now, the problem with thanking individuals is that you miss other people out. How can you thank everybody for everything that you want to thank? So, apologies. First person I want to thank is Andrew. I didn't know what he was about to say, but I was pretty much going to say exactly the words to him that he said to me. Andrew was fantastically flexible when I started my exit strategy 5 years ago in 2016, to the point where I needed to be unemployed for a single day and then return to work on a new employment contract, which caused a little bit of faffing around, but the flexibility was there on both sides. I think we both felt it, and I really appreciated it. It made my exit strategy work in effect. I'd also like to thank him for exactly what he thanked me for, which was the discussions we had about some of my harebrained ideas, which he did listen to, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I want to thank the people who caught me. On that day that I left, the Wednesday, I'd announced that I was going at 9 o'clock the night before on Gmail, on our email, thinking that's late enough that nobody can do anything about it. And yet several of you caught me on that last day, came up to me, gave me cards, gave me booze. I really appreciated it. Thank you. I didn't mean you to take any effort. That's why I announced it so late. So here we come on to one of my objectives. PE teachers. Stereotyping and gross generalisation. I'm not going to make the point that PE teachers are people who stereotype and do gross generalisations. I am going to make some gross generalisations about PE teachers. 39 years is long enough to work out I like PE teachers as a breed. I had my big suspicions when we were introducing every subject to every subject on the secondary curriculum. We ran courses, some of them residential, at the Teachers' Centre or in hotels, and they were fraught with problems when none of the population on those courses knew how to use computers. They didn't know which way up the mouse was, and it was hard work. A number of teachers said that they would see their career out without using computers, so they've only got 20 years to go. And when we got the PE teachers in, it was a completely different experience. Everything was positive. They learned it really fast. They appeared to have a fabulous intellect for it and saw exactly how this would work in there. Anyway, you see what I'm saying. And over the years, my PE colleagues have always demonstrated those fantastic qualities. And on the week I left, I got the most fabulous card, really well written by a member of PE staff. I got a video arrive, a really good video that cheered me up that week as well. And then later on, an old bloke arrived at my door and gave me a bottle of Greek brandy. So thank you, PE teachers. I want to thank one or two other people. I'd like to thank Gavin for giving form and structure to our alcoholism. I'd like to thank Dylan, because Dylan, you always make me happy and I love you.
Aww.
Oh yeah, I want to thank all the people who have accompanied me on residential trips, nearly always to London, Paris or New York. There's a lot of you in here, there's one sitting right by me here and a few out there. It's hard work doing that, but it's a fabulous experience for the kids. I've tried to count up how many I've done. I got to 42, but I've lost some, some bits have gone blurry. And so, let's move on to stretch and challenge. This may or may not stretch you. It's definitely going to challenge me. Donc, maintenant, j'aimerais prendre la parole en français. Vous, les profs de langue vivants, ne riez pas aux éclats. Rosie Berry, je voudrais te remercier de m'avoir accompagné à Paris lors de ces voyages avec les étudiants en français et photographie. Je suis bien sûr que Rosie aurait déjà fait le récit de nos aventures qui inclut l'événement célèbre des slips blancs, des chaussettes blanches et d'une ceinture sur laquelle était écrit « Jesus loves me ». Sinon, on peut la persuader avec un verre de vin. Rosie, ton professionnalisme, ta minutie et ta camaraderie vont me manquer. Et en plus, ton talent pour me calmer et me conseiller après plusieurs réunions où je m'étais exclamé avec extravagance. Ah oui, et aussi, merci de m'avoir aidé à devenir une personne consacrée aux truffes. Ça, c'est une vacherie, car elles sont assez chères. Salut Rosie, c'est partie remise pour en manger. Salut also to Sophia Johnston. I'm going to use pictures here. I have two pictures, and I've tried to sum up a huge relationship in two single images. So I'm going to do that. That's on a roundabout. In Paris, as it happens, and it works on so many levels. It works on so many levels for me to our relationship. Of course, it looks fun, and it isn't all about fun. Sophia has a rock-solid philosophy about art, and is the best art teacher I've ever worked with. Here's the other one. I've felt like there's a USB cord that goes from the back of my head to the back of her head. So I'll be teaching some kid who is on A-level art course, following their own highly individualised path, and maybe give some guidance to them, and then get the response from the student, Miss Johnston said that yesterday. This has happened several times, both ways around, and in photography and in art. Cheers, Rosie. Oh, not Rosie. Cheers, Sophia. You're the best. Nearly finished. I want to thank, he's not here, Mr. Maslin, the former head teacher, because he also listened to my crazy ideas and bit them sometimes as well, one of which was this. I wanted to photograph the school. I wanted 99 kids to leave their lesson all at the same moment, go to a predetermined arbitrary spot and take a photograph even if the school looked shit or not. And he said yes. It was all based on a grid map that had been placed over the school, and it was my little project in my head of photographing things but not just cherry picking everything that looks pretty. Well, he supported me on that, and I thank him for it, because that became my grid project. And if any of you have been close to me over the last few years, this thing that started in 2002 is still going, and it's gone a few places. The motto of the grid project now is, when one door opens, another door opens. Just after I'd packed in being head of department, this was the biggest show I've ever had, in the footsteps of Phyllis in Birmingham. It even got to number 4 in the BBC online news. Amazingly, I couldn't believe that. But as soon as that had happened, it opened the door for other places, for my photography and the photography of the people that collaborate with me. And since then we've had exhibitions in Tate, Liverpool, the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, the Herbert Gallery, Coventry, and I'm just about starting a project next week for the Coventry City of Culture, which was by invitation from Warwick University. So it had its roots right back here. Okay, I'm going to finish. I said at the beginning I'd embarrass myself. So 2 of the most embarrassing moments in my career. Here we go. Embarrassing moment number 1. There's a lot of people looking at me now. And in some year, in the 90s, I think, I ended up with 500 parents looking singly at me in a not very good situation. We were doing a production of the Rocky Horror Show. I was Frankenfurter. And there was a girls' chorus led by Mrs. Sue Taylor, fabulous French teacher. And the chorus did the dancing. And when it was the time warp, they had a strict and precise dance that was brilliantly done. I had to dance too, but they just told me, improvise. Go in and out amongst them. Just work your way amongst them. So I did. And at one point in the dance, Sue had this thing, well, they all were bobbing their heads side to side. I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go behind Sue, who's in the centre, and bob my head the other way, side to side. That'll look good to the audience. And I've got my hands on her hips. And I didn't know that the next move was that she would bend over. Thank God they didn't have they didn't have mobile phones with cameras in the 90s. Obviously I got out of the way pretty quick. Number 1 embarrassing moment, which will take that one by storm. I was on a London trip. It was my birthday, in fact, coincided. I was in the bar with everybody else of whatever hotel it is on Russell Square. Now I needed a shower. I've been saved by the bell, I'm not telling you. Thank you, folks.
Right, the last bit you'll